Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday Dye Date. I was just checking to make sure it really is 11 o'clock. I like to be sharp and on time. So I'm Wanda Kerr, in case you don't know, and I have a studio in Wyerton, Ontario called Wanda Works. It's on the main street, but the door is locked because I'm busy in here working. So I'm in my kitchen right now. It's way at the back of the store, and this is where we have Friday Dye Date from. So this dye date is brought to you by Wanda Works, which is my overarching company. And within that company, I have the Magic Carpet Dye Company. This is the place to buy Magic Carpet dyes from. I have the Welcome app, which is my wonderful online teaching studio. And yeah, I really hope you'll think about subscribing, because if you're tired of doing the same thing the same way, I really like to break open those ideas and have a think about new ways to do things. And today we're going to be working on backgrounds and thinking about the different ways they can happen. So I also want to mention, though, I have sponsors for this show, and they're just kind, regular people who keep me in wool and things to keep this going on. And today I want to thank Maria and Catherine very much for your monthly donation to help the dye show continue. Do you hear like a vague rumbling in the background? That's my kettle. I'm just boiling it. I don't usually need to boil it, but today we're going to try to do 3 different ways to deal with backgrounds. And I also have some interesting rugs to show you about different ways that I wanted to try different backgrounds during my rug cooking career. So you can see me stirring away here, and I've already started dyeing. I know you probably hate when I do that, but here's what I did. I want to have 2 pieces of wool for a background, one solid and one spotted. And I'm going to work those together. So on Monday class, we have a class almost every Monday. Every other Monday, every summer, we study on something. And this time we're studying on the book Keep Going by Austin Kleon, and we're really enjoying that. If you want to partake in those things, you're going to need to be a subscriber. But while we were in class, we were talking about how to make, there's rugs and they'll have a big central part with a ring of usually flowers or leaves around it. And we were discussing how we can make that interesting. And it's an old trick to do this. I didn't invent this or think of it first or anything like that. So it's a wonderful way to kind of have 2 things working together. So I would use my spot dye and make formation of something like leaves or something that relates back to the rug. If I had like a ring of puppy dogs, I might use my spot dye to make little footprints, for instance, and then fill the rest in with the solid piece. So I'm just going to show you how to do that today. My kettle just went off, so I know that that's a-okay now. And I'm going to add some acid to this water because it's been in here a bit. I'm going to tell you what's in there. Makes a very good backgroundy type of a color. So I don't use much acid. If you know me, you know that already. I probably used about a little over 1/32 of acid in here, and I'm using industrial acid. So it's not like the kind you get from the drugstore. So here's what I put in. 1/4 yard of wool. It's just natural wool. I used 1/32 teaspoon of blue violet. These are all Magic Carpet dyes, but you probably have a purple. It doesn't really matter what dyes you use. I like to teach about ideas, things that you can do. The next color was 1/32 of blue. The next color, 1/32 of bottle, and the next one was 1/32 of brilliant green. So it sort of made a color like this. Williamsburg blue, sort of, and there's still some color to take up. I'll show you how much. But now let's make its companion piece over here in my frying pan. So I'm going to get another 1/4 yard. I almost wish my frying pan wasn't so big, so I think I might do something to cram it up, because to make a good spot dye, just looking to see if we know where my little frying pan is, but I don't see it. To make a good spot dye, you want to have things crumpled up. So normally I go like this in a pan and work it away. You know what? Let's ad lib. Put it in here because I can put this in this water bath and make it bain marie. So I'm going to move the frying pan back a little bit. Nothing like improvising, and just show you how this goes. So I throw the wool out here and I just pull it in and pull it in. I'm both scrunching and making sure I'm not underlapping or overlapping any wool. I make sure my edges go down because that's a big problem. People have their edges aren't very interesting. We need the whole thing to be interesting. Got a little bit of a fold over. So here's my quarter yard, and you can see because this is smaller, nicely crumpled. That's the whole key to making interesting spot dyes. All right, I'm gonna be running back and forth to my kettle a little bit. So always, if you've never dyed before, we wanna dissolve our dye in water. Oh. Today my daughter set me up and we had a roll of paper towels on the paper towel thing, but maybe she's cleaning somewhere or something, but I'll just use a little bit of this one. I don't want to stick my damp spoon into my dry dye because that's not a good idea. So first I'm going to take bottle green. I'm going to use 1/32 of it. I'm going to be a little more generous with my measurements. Now you can add acid to every color, but I would just die of boredom and I don't want to have that happen. So I'm gonna just sprinkle a tiny bit of acid in here. Probably sprinkle 2/32. And this is too strong, meaning I don't have enough water to dye ratio. So I want to lessen that strength. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it to bring it up to 1 cup. Now I'm just going to pour this color randomly. I don't do dots because I think that things change too quickly to really get the full benefit. Whoops, how I gave some to my tablecloth. Now I'm going to do that again with my next color. I like to pour in M's and W's is what I usually do. Drying this off again so I'm not sticking any dry or wet spoon in my dry dye. This time I use Brilliant Green. I'm just going to pour it over too. I'm always reserving some part of it as white until the very last color. Okay. Just a little bit of dye left in the bottom there, and I'm going to get it out. Okay, there we go. Now, more water. I'm going to dry my spoon. I'm going to turn this down because I don't want it to bubble up and over the side. That's the only drawback with these kitchen kettles is they can get a little active, I like to say. So now I'm going to move to blue violet. It doesn't really, sometimes it matters which way, the order in which you add these, but it doesn't matter with these because they're all on the same side of the color wheel. On the cool side. Really nice, but I wouldn't keep pouring this on myself. All right, get every last little bit out. Now we're going to do the next color, which is blue itself. So hopefully we've achieved values that an action that's going to be slightly different than, Just about did blue violet again. Uh-oh. And my spoon was wet. Mama quiero. Let's see. There's blue, and I'm gonna get a new set of spoons. Also rattling around in here because I want to get something to mash my spot dye down with. So it's 1/32 of blue. And I'm being a little generous every time when I'm making the spot dye, not keeping the amounts exactly the same. Now, normally if you're at home and you use your oven for dyeing, which there's no reason why you can't, the dye doesn't get carried in steam. There's no worry about that. So now I'm going to put my blue over top, and I'm going to be careful to cover up my white spots. I'm going to make sure that I distribute it around. And then I'm going to mash this down. And I'm only going to do this once. I work from left to right and then right to left, moving down this piece of cloth I've got all folded up in here. There. Now I'm ready to set it in this pan. There we go. So it's in contact with the hot water, and I'm probably going to get its lid as well. Doing a lot of off-camera things today. I'm sorry about that. So whenever we put a lid on something, it helps employ steam to make action to happen too, which is, we want that. We only have a half-hour show or so, although we might be going over today. We shall see. All right, let's see what's going on in this pot that I turned down. Maybe it needs a little bit more acid. I'm gonna add a little bit more because I had a color in here that really green that needs a little more acid. So this time I'm gonna add 1/8 teaspoon in. Gonna put the heat up. Oh, I put in 1/4. That's okay too. It must have been my instinct at work. So I never worry about that too much. But as you can see, I don't use much dye at all. I'm going to turn up this frying pan too, as high as it will go. And this is almost as high as it will go to. It's at 300, and that's because it boiled over. I turned it down a titch. So let's have a little rug show while we wait for this to take up. I also want to be very careful with this dye spoon because it was wet and it has a little cling of blue violet on it. We don't want to be throwing that all around. Does anybody have any questions about what I've done? Okay, good. So today when I sent out the second announcement of the dye shows the Welcome Mat members, I put this rug up in it. And this was a very early rug. I started in 1997, and I had aubergine wool off the bolt. And I took, I don't know, it was probably a 1/4 yard of each one, and I dyed every one with every color of my Magic Carpet dyes, so that I ended up with all these really interesting variants of aubergine. So I didn't cancel out the aubergine-ness. I just went ahead and sort of had these different temperatures of aubergine, which was really helpful because when I went around something that was warm, I could use a cooler one to help it be vivified and stand out. If I went over something cool, I could use a warmer one that would do the same thing. And in that way, I could play this wonderful game. And I really enjoyed that. And it allowed it not to look so flat and boring. And it also pumped up the power of the flowers I had made. It doesn't matter what you do with that. Here's a piece from a few years ago where I did the same thing and just used my scraps. So where I had something warm, I put a cool pastel around it. It's really interesting to have a variety of things to play with as you as you hook. And this is another example. This is a free pattern on the welcome mat called the Spirit Turtle. Every year I give a free pattern, and it's done the same way with all varying, I think I have a couple of spot dyes and just some scraps going in there. And it's a lot of fun to hook, and you don't get bored, and you get this wonderful all temperature relief about your background, right? It becomes very lovely and neutral. And for people who are looking, it's exciting. They feel that interesting power of more color, which if you, I was like saying in the write-up today, often we're like, just use one, 3 yards of one color, make it all the same. Oh my God, it didn't turn out the same. You know what? It doesn't even matter. We should be aiming for things not to be alike. If you ever look at the background of a painting or background of another kind of rug hooking or, rug making, system, like people who use latch hook or do cross stitch on rugs and things like that, there's always a myriad of colors happening in there. And we just don't do that. And I wish we would. So here's another example where I was using stripes. So I could keep the stripes very close so they appear as one. If I hold this back here, you don't really notice. But when you get closer to it, it's more noticeable. If you're wondering what incarnation this is, it's like a purse pattern I used to teach people. So yeah, there's chicken with like orange, yellow, and yellow stripes, and the stripes change as it's going up. We can have a lot more fun than we're having, I believe, currently. Here's another example of this, where you can keep things close, or you can let them be more dynamic. So there's a close one, and here's a couple of close ones. But here in the center, where I have the flowers, I traded temperatures. Okay, let's see what's happening here. I like to have a lot of fun with my backgrounds. I often notice when people were hooking, it would just be a place to end instead of a place to begin, like, oh, now I have to do the background. And I like to make sure it's something interesting and dynamic to do. So this is all done now. I'm going to throw it in the sink over here. Let it get cooled off. I'm pretty happy with that color. It's not too bold. It has enough color in it to be a rich background. And I think when partnered with a spot dye, it's really going to be lovely. Sorry, I thought it would have been cooled off by now. I tell you, the most dangerous thing about wool is, the most dangerous thing about dyeing wool is steam and heat. So there's that color. It's a lovely background. If people tell you not to use a medium background, that's an old-fashioned idea we no longer need to adhere to. Okay, so now I want to move on to do something different. I want to take, like I did with my flower rug, I'm going to take 3 different browns. I'll show them to you in a second as soon as I get them over here. So, loosely they're browns. They were on my brown shelf, so they must be what I consider to be brown. They're different temperatures, so one cool, one warmer still, and one also warmer. So this ends up to be my more neutral one. So now I'm going to add, I want to make violet. I know it sounds crazy to dye violet over brown, but you've never seen such a beautiful thing as when you dye violet over brown. It makes lovely, lovely colors. And I do the reverse also. I will dye brown over violets to make something really interesting. It used to be, I'm really showing my age now, but used to be you could get all kinds of interesting pastels that you could dye over. And that was great because you could just get them off the bowl. But please don't forget, you can dye your own browns or purples or whatever, and then dye them again for more dynamic color use. So instead of using blue violet, which tends to fade in light. We all know that. I like to make my blue violet out of 2 colors. So I use turquoise 2020 and red violet. So I'm going to get that ready now. That's just a piece of the blue wool floating in there in case you wondered. And I'm going to use 1/4 teaspoon of red violet, because I have quite a bit of wool. I almost have a whole yard there. How much do I have? I have 3/4 of a yard. So I want to be able to, for it to be violet. So I need to overcome the brown. Red violet's a little shy. She doesn't always enjoy getting wet. She's a shy bather. Now we're going to use 1/4 teaspoon of turquoise 2020. If you ever wonder, how can I predict what's going to happen when I'm over dyeing things? If you go to wandaworks.ca, I have a wonderful over dyeing chart. It's not about any dye company. It's just about, if you have these colors of wool and you dye this kind of color over it, what can you sort of expect? And it's so helpful because it lets you have way more adventures, and then you're not so worried about what things are going to turn out like. So I'm just looking at my purple, and it's blue violet, which I'm going to allow. If I wanted it to be more violet-y, then I just would add more red violet.
Wanda, this is Cass. Can I ask you a quick question?
Yep.
You're making that for the 3/4. Is that the 3/4 warms that you're talking about?
These browns. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So just the warm browns, right?
No, they're all going in.
Oh, they're all going.
Brown
Okay.
is a naturally warm color. So of course they're all warm, but among them, relatively, they're warmer and cooler.
Okay.
Yeah. But brown comes from, it either comes from yellow, orange, or orange red, and it's always warm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to say too, asking me a question right when I'm going to add wool in, it's not the best idea because I'm a little bit lagged. It's okay. I lagged adding the one in because there was a lot of, the water's hot, there's acid present. So I don't know what that last one will turn out like, but it's okay. Yeah. It's a-okay. I can see it's quite.
Next time, just say no.
I'll just say, don't ask me nothing, girl.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Sometimes there's one that doesn't quite turn out the way I want it to. And I don't know if you all know this, but I don't figure this all out before we have this show. I'm just dying naturally. I write everything down and whatever happens, happens. So I want you to see me making my so-called repairs or changes so I get what I want. So the last thing we're going to do is kind of go old school. And now I have nothing to do it in. So we're going to have to wait a minute or two. I guess I could do it in the microwave. What time is it? Yeah, time is getting on. And I still have a couple of other things I want to talk to you about. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what to do and process it in the microwave. So I'm just going to get a big, measuring cup. I'm going to add the boiling water I have in my kettle. That way I can dissolve the dyes in here, and then I'll top it up a little bit with some other dye. And I wanted to make these pieces of wool here. And I've taken before pictures of this for my Welcome At subscribers. I don't know if this will all fit in here, but we'll do our best. I'll just to show you what to do. I might end up processing it here when this is done. So I have like a very dirty white, I have yellow, I have yellow green. These are all lights. I have a light yellow orange, I have orange, and I have this interesting teal color, and I'm going to make them all be part of the same background. so that you can have some fun. So in here, I'm gonna add bottle. And I don't want it to be too dark, so I'm not gonna be adding too much dye in ratio to the amount of wool I have, which is like 6/16 or something. There's that dirty purple thing. We don't want that. So 1/32 of bottle. I'm just gonna peek at this while I'm over on this. This still has a ways to go, so I think we're gonna be okay. Then probably definitely gonna have to add, not probably, I'm definitely gonna have to add a lot more acid to this. Because it has turquoise in it, it also needs extra acid. Now I'm gonna add 1/32 of blue. It could be possible that all this will work together for one rug. So what I'm doing here might be the background, and what I'm doing here could be the border. So that'll be cool. And now because I want to kind of make a teal color, I have to add black. You could also add old stink, but to warm it up if you wanted to. 1/128, you can see how carefully I'm measuring that. Like 1/4 of 1/32, and that's what I did. So now I'm gonna see if I can pour a little bit in here to show you this color. So it's kind of a beautiful teal color. And I don't know if you know this, but teal is a really excellent, excellent color to help a rug be brought together. It works for all types of styles of rug hooking. So if you're a primitive hooker, it works really well. If you're not, it works really well. If you like to make modern rugs, and you like to make classical rugs like florals and things like that, it helps everybody. I like to call it the hooker's little helper. So this is all processed, just about. I'm gonna add a little bit of acid to the end because I think I'm gonna be able to put this in the frying pan and finish this show out. You don't mind if it's a few minutes longer, do you?
Not at all.
Hey, great, I'm so glad, thank you for your indulgences. Okay, you get in there. So there's really just the smallest amount of color in there, and that's why I'm moving it around. Otherwise, I would not be moving this on pains of death. Okay. So you can kind of see how these two go together. Isn't that great? What do you think?
It's gorgeous.
We like to say, it's a miracle here.
Yeah.
Now, how am I going to get that evil little tray out of there without burning myself? And there's a tiny bit of color still left in there, but not enough to be concerned to the color we're making. I'm just going to pour this in here. Oh, I'm so happy that I'm finishing this off. Okay. So here I have my pastels. And I'm going to put them in. I usually like to put them in lightest to darkest if I have my druthers. So what happens here is you get these interesting, oh mama, you don't go jumping in there before I say you can. You get these interesting united colors that have little differences in them. You know, one will be greener, one will be bluer, one will be duller. And that is excellent fun to play with too. And if you are a yarn dyer, you can do exactly the same thing as I'm doing. Just have your hanks all ready and fire them in. Just use different colors that are pretty close in value. So I had one that was slightly darker. I have one that was slightly lighter. So this was the kind of thing that was really great for working our class Spin-A-Line. If you missed that class, you can still buy it over on wandaworks.ca. And that brings me to my other class. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's not too late for you to join because there's no pattern. But look at this amazing thing you can do with your leftover scraps.
Wow.
You can also use the dog tooth and make a landscape. And I'm going to show you how to do that out of your own fabrics that are just sitting around your place. Some people are making a really large rug. Some people are making, just trying it out. I think you should. It makes an excellent border. It allows you to use things up and melt them together. And really, I could make a whole background like that if I wished. Speaking of backgrounds, so please go to wandaworks.ca. And one of the designations right at the top in my shop is online classes. And you'll find the dog tooth class right there. I call it the Scrappy Dog Tooth. Please join us. I'm not having a class in July. So if you want something fun to do in the summer that you can pick up and throw down and it's using all your bits and pieces up, that's the thing for you, sister. So I added like maybe half a teaspoon, and it's about the amount of dye, and it's about the amount of, you know, just how much dye I've had it in here, and it needs more acid. It's a manhandle when you have that much wool in. So it could be that if I wanted this to be duller, can you see that? Okay, I think you can. It's almost all taken up, and it's a little bright, but it's not too bright for me, I have to say. But if it is too bright for you, or you see one that you don't feel is fitting in, like this yellow green, of course, doesn't fit in. I enjoy that when I'm having my backgrounds. I like messing about with these things. But if you don't, you can remove the other wool. And I'm not going to do it here, but you can remove the other wool. And if you add a little bit of blue to it, that will help reckon it. And if you want to do it more quickly in your braid, you can add the tiniest amount of blue violet, and that will change them. But when I arrange them in the pan, sort of according to from warm to cool, you can see suddenly how it fits in better. So it's often about what you're laying up against the other. So while that's going, I'm going to talk to you a second about different backgrounds. So this background was done using a painting on wool method, and I had wool that was just 1/16, and I went from violet to bottle green, and I had blue between, and this is what I got, and some were darker and some were lighter. And you can see where my rug was dark, I put the darker ones around, and where it was lighter, I used the lighter ones, and I could make beautiful transitions between the violet and the blue to the turquoise without any difficulty. So that's another way to have fun. It holds together because you're changing your value to meet what you're going around. And that's the case in this rug too. I have many weird colors as the background. I'll bring it close to you. You can study because I also sent you this one this morning. And I have all kinds of things. I have light around where it's dark, and I have darker ones around where it's light, so that everything will show up strongly. All my motifs will show the way they're supposed to. But the background itself is a real symphony in differences. Oh, mama. It's hot in here, guys. And last but not least, this is also a free pattern on the welcome mat, and I think it's called Joy. This background was entirely texture. So I'm going to bring it close to you so you can see all the different textures in it. And here they are in real life. And those are what I used together to create this background. So please explore and expand your thinking and your ideas about what backgrounds can be, because they're pretty cool. And we start really trying things out. So here's our spot dye, and here's our mate to it. So again, if I wanted to use the one to hook leaves or dog paws or whatever I wanted to, I could do it with this one, the spot dye, and then fill in around it with this one. And there's places where they will blend and places where they will stand out, and it's lovely. The other thing you can do too is not a spot dye, but you can do a wandering. which also works out very beautifully.
Wanda, how many pieces of different pastels did you put in there? About 6 or 8 or something like that?
Let's just count. I think there's 6.
Okay.
2, 3.
And is that a good
4.
number to do that with so that you have the variety?
No, that's just what I had prepared and could grab quickly and easily. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So you could do many, but you want to be careful because you don't want your pan so crammed up that you can't move them around and get them all colored, right?
Okay.
That's a problem if you try to do too many things at one time. But yet, making a spot dye, I need my wool crammed up. So it's like, there's no satisfying me, is there? I always want something different. But you can kind of see by looking at it through here how interesting that will be.
Right.
And for the love of monkeys, don't tell me I have to hook that to show you. When I first started working for Rug Cooking Magazine, they were like, we'll need a rug for every dye column. And that basically would mean 5 rugs a year just for them. And I did not have the time nor the inclination to do that for them. And I said, well, I'm not going to take that job then. You'll have to do without a dye columnist because I don't want to be hooking rugs for you all the time. We have a good imagination and we know what will happen. So probably I'm not going to be able to show you these browns. I'm going to try to put them in the pan here. I have to be careful because I don't want to get splashed. So some of them, I mean, these backgrounds all sort of go together. Anyway, one is very purple and one is sort of purple and the other ones are kind of tealish. And if I need them to be more purple, which I don't think I'm going to do, I think they're really handsome together. I would just take these out, add more blue to them to bring them closer to violet. And then I would make a like quarter or I'd probably use like 1 32nd of blue over it. Then I'd probably use a 32nd and a 32nd of my measurements before, and I could work my way up to this. But the thing is, every time I add dye, I'm gonna make it darker. So I don't want to add a whole bunch of dye at the same time. So that's why I do it in increments because I'm just looking for a color change. And I might do that right now. Do you guys still have time?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna mix up blue and pour over here.
I'll make you lunch, Wanda.
Oh, bless you. Will you deliver it too?
I will. Nice cool
Okay.
cup of iced tea.
Oh, my goodness. That sounds wonderful. I didn't even have time to pack a lunch this morning. I'm doing my best to try to invite people on Facebook to come too, and it takes a long time to do all those things. So now already I can see adding that blue, let me turn this up, has made these two less teal and more leaning towards blue. So now I'm going to mix up the other two. I do have my pan free now, so let's use it. Okay. I'm going to take these other two out. We don't need to change those. I think they're nice sort of dull blue violet, more blue than violet. You know, I got to tell you this. So my jar says that it's blue violet and it isn't, it's violet. So what I mixed up here makes more of a blue violet in real life. So here's my blue violet, which is really violet. And I don't change the name, even though I'm a color Nazi, because everybody will be so upset. But it's a misnamed color. And now I'm going to add my turquoise 2020, the same amount. I'm going to stretch these out a little bit so that more of it's coming in contact with the dye. And I've got exactly the same color because the ratio was the same, 1 part to 1 part, just a smaller part. All right, lid back on jar. That's my #1 rule. So now let me spread this out. Turn this up a little because I did shut it off. I thought it was on and it was off. It's hard to tell in the light here. And I'm going to just pour this over and hopefully get closer to what it is I want. Let me get all of that goodness. I'm gonna try to mix this around. I don't want to mix it too much because it wouldn't hurt my feelings if some of that teal did show up. So we'll get this cranked up. And you know what? I have this old Scuddy spoon. Remember, I've been trying to avoid it. I'm just gonna put it in there too. It is blue violet. Some of this paper towel too, and it might as well join the fun. Look how pretty that is. Oh my goodness, I can even dye paper towels handsomely. I'm gonna give up this job. Just dye paper instead. All right. Here we go. Does anybody have any questions about my dog tooth class or any other thing that they've been dying to ask me? Haha. No?
Could you hold up the very first rug, the aubergine one
That
close?
aubergine one?
Yeah. Because we could see the background on everyone but that
You're
one.
not going to be able to see that because
No.
it's just the sublist of temperature change. And the other thing is it's hooked in like a number 3 cut or something. Number 4. I mean, I would have to get so close to you. And Zoom is terrible for color. So what I'll try to do is take a close-up photo and put it in the notes for my subscribers. How's that sound, Ellen?
Sounds
Great.
good.
That's
Good. Any other question anybody have?
Wanda, this is so gorgeous. I'm so excited. I can't wait to get my black spots out.
What did you like best?
I like the way the first two just work together so well.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of it, though,
Like,
all
it's
of it.
amazing, right? And it's so just breaking down the recipe to make a spot dye.
Yeah, it looks like fun.
Handsome. Yeah, and you get these dark and light spots that glimmer a bit, which is also fun in a rug, right? Doesn't show up too much, but it shows up enough to make it interesting. And if it does show up too much, like I have a couple of little white spots on there because I was hurrying. But if it does show up too much, just cut the head off that loop. Off with your head. We don't have to put up with that. Life's too short. Yeah, I'm gonna add some more acid to this now as it heats up. I think we're gonna get just where we want to be. That nice blue violet. Of course, I picked the world's smallest spoon. If you're using my old turquoise, the classic one, you'll want to not add quite as much red violet because it will overwhelm. But then you might get something that's more red violet. Maybe you want that, which means it'll be violet instead of blue violet. Are all these violetings driving you crazy? Sorry about that. All right, I guess if no one has any questions, don't forget to sign up to the welcome mat if you're not a subscriber, and you can have a 6 month or a 3 month subscription. And please join my spin a line class. I'm really excited about it, and it's going to be wonderful to see new ways that we can use the colors we already have. Is there nothing? I don't think there's anything better than that. I really don't. Questions, anyone?
Wanda, Denise,
Hi, Denise.
can you speak just a little bit more about why turquoise holds its color better than just the blue? Because I thought part of the base of turquoise was blue.
No, turquoise is its own dye, has nothing to do with blue. I guess if you're mixing paint and you don't have a turquoise paint, you could use some blue, but turquoise and blue in the dyeing game don't have anything to do with each other. Yeah.
So don't make up our own turquoise color and substitute that. Use the actual turquoise dye.
I would. I
Okay.
definitely would use turquoise. And turquoises come in lots of different strengths. So the one that I use, turquoise 2020, is as bright as my red violet. So that's why I mixed it in equal amounts. And really, it overcame my red violet. So moving ahead, I might use more red violet. But if I'm using my old turquoise, which is slightly duller, then the red violet overcomes it. So it's all a balancing game. And I used to know all the other turquoises, but I can't even remember them now because, yeah, I've had some health issues and my treatments just make me so forgetful. But I have to say to you, you know what? It's kind of freeing too, not to have to remember everything. So you can look at color cards, but what you want to do when you're mixing colors, you want to have the brightest colors you can. We can always dull something down. We can dull it down by over dyeing something. Like, I'm gonna haul these out here. Now, dyeing a purple over a brown makes a dull purple, right? It's a neighbor of yellow, so naturally it's going to dull that violet down. But I like to have the bright color, so I'm in charge of what happens. If I want to dull down my bright color, I can just use old stink or something like that. But if I need a bright color and I don't have one, you know, I'm going to be at a lack, and I'm going to feel I have a deficit. So, yeah. Does that answer your question fully?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I like the brighter colors, so that's perfect for me.
It's good to have bright colors. Yeah. Although when we look at them, we want to shy away from them. They're really the best thing to get when you're going to be a dyer, a powerful dyer, which means you're going to be making your own formulas and getting to the places you want to go through your own tricks and formulas rather than following those of someone else's slavishly, which is fine if that's what you do. But if you're looking for some greater expression with your color use, then it's important that you have the good tools to do that with. Yeah. All right, my loves. Of course, I'll be taking pictures and writing this all up, and you'll be able to see the video on the welcome mat in the Magic Carpet Dyers Circle. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you have an excellent weekend. I think this week that's coming, it's going to be July 1st, which is our Canada Day, your July 4th. So we're probably not going to have a dye show, and I'll be showing you a rerun, which is always good too. All right. Thanks so much for coming. Don't forget about my dog tooth class. Have a
Thank
great
you.
time.
Thanks, Wanda.
Thank you, Wanda.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Wanda. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye
Love
now.
you.
Bye.